It's a little hard to believe we are where we are. I never thought we'd say the words, well, the Democrats have a little bit of momentum going here in August. They had a pretty successful rally yesterday, big crowd in Philly, as Kamala Harris introduced Tim Walz, a man who, according to a recent poll, is only known by 29% of the American people. 71% of Americans have no idea who this guy is, what he's about. And there is a big reveal by the Democrats. They're showing their hand, and they're doing it in a very peculiar way. They're denying who they are. And this absolutely fascinates me. I'm like a dog with a bone today on this. I can't get over the fact that they're trying to pretend that a leftist like Tim Walz isn't a leftist. Why don't they own it? I mean, Kamala is. She's a progressive, and she didn't pick the safe choice, Josh Shapiro, who lit up the crowd yesterday, and he's considered more moderate than Tim Walz. Tim Walz is a guy who gave driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. That's all you need to hear. This is a guy who defended tearing down Christopher Columbus statues. That's a non-starter. For most Americans, that's a complete non-starter. There's no way normal people think it's okay for a governor to defend tearing down a statue of Christopher Columbus. He did. Thankfully, there are receipts. Thankfully, we got the proof. Here's what this radical extremist governor of Minnesota had to say. And you got to see the split screen, too, which is even better than just hearing it on the radio. If you're watching right now on Salem News Channel, you'll see Tim Walz on the right side of the screen defending the violence and the destruction of tearing down statues that in some cases have been up for hundreds of years. And on the left side of the screen, you'll see them put a noose around the neck of the statue of Christopher Columbus and tear it to the ground, destroying it. And here's Minnesota's governor, the guy they want you to believe is moderate and middle of the road and a normal Midwestern guy. Here he is defending it.
It was an act of civil disobedience that we need to make sure people feel that there is a proper outlet to address what are legitimate concerns around what they view as a genocidal monument that they have to walk to in their democracy.
Okay, so that's who he is. Okay, I mean, we know it. Minnesotans know it. They know who the guy is, and they know what he is. He's a progressive leftist. But listen to Pelosi yesterday on MSNBC pretending that he is not who he says he is.
Tim Walz, I know very well. He served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat.
Now, isn't that fascinating that Pelosi wants to deny that he's left? I mean, forget the pejoratives that we use in our world: radical, extremist, far left ideologue. No, just left. She won't even acknowledge he's left. This is a guy who gave driver's licenses to illegals, who watched Minneapolis burn for 3 days before he gave the mayor any help. His wife bragged about throwing the windows open to smell the burning of the tires and the rubble during the destruction of the George Floyd riots because it was a touchstone moment. That's who these people are. They are certainly leftists. Why won't Nancy Pelosi admit it? Are they afraid of the American people learning who they are? Well, of course they are. Cori Bush of Missouri, who's one of the most prominent progressives in the House, got clobbered last night in her primary. She's out. Cori Bush, squad member, gone. Jamal Bowman, New York, gone. America is rejecting the radical extremism of people like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. Look at these primaries. Apparently Ilhan Omar's on the chopping block next week politically. Maybe Minnesotans will vote against her because it's an open primary. It just takes a few thousand Republicans to be willing to cast a ballot for her opponent, and she's gone. Now, maybe with all the giddiness and euphoria of Tim Walz, maybe she'll hang on. I don't know. She barely won last time. But clearly Americans have had enough. However, do not take any of this for granted. They had a nice rally. They had a big crowd. They got a lot of young people. It's anybody but Biden, and they're excited. And the extremists of the party, the anti-Semites, are giddy. They dodged that bullet when they didn't pick Josh Shapiro. You can't have a guy named Shapiro on the ballot. We got to get a guy that kind of looks like Elmer Fudd. And boy, did he ever look like Elmer Fudd taking the fake call yesterday. Hi, Governor Walz. Did you see this? So embarrassing, so cringy. They staged the phone call like as if there happened to be cameras around when Kamala Harris made a phone call to Tim Walz to offer him do we have that clip, guys? I probably didn't pull it because I don't want to torment the audience. And he's sitting there like Elmer Fudd with his hunting cap on. His hunting cap. Look at me. I'm a normal Midwesterner. If he's such a normal Midwesterner, why was Tampon Tim trending #1 in America yesterday on X? And that has to do with him signing off on installing tampon dispensers in the girls' and the boys' bathrooms of Minnesota. Middle America? Hardly. Moderate? Not even close. But aren't you intrigued by them denying it? Play the Nancy Pelosi clip, Christian, one more time so you can see how terrified they are of Americans acknowledging how radical they are. First of all, there's two things I'm fixated on. Why do they go into a rage when you call Kamala Harris a product of diversity, equity, and inclusion? They love DEI, right? They're all about DEI. Biden promised to pick a black woman. He did. Why are they mad when you call her a DEI hire? How is that racist or misogynistic or sexist? What are you talking about? Embrace it. Own it. They can't because America rejects DEI, because normal Americans are fed up with this nonsense. Hey, Tim Walz is a leftist. He gave driver's licenses to illegals. He watched Minneapolis burn to the ground. His wife bragged about, play the wife cut. This is the wife, the first lady of Minnesota, boldly proclaiming they kept their windows open in their home so they could smell the destruction of the BLM riots after George Floyd died.
I would say those first days, when there were riots, I could smell the burning tires. And that was a very real thing. And I kept the windows open for as long as I could because I felt like that was such a touchstone of what was happening.
Yeah, I wanted to inhale the fumes of the burning tires because it was such a touchstone moment of Minnesota nice? Jesse Waters put it best. It's Minnesota nuts. These are nuts. These are kooks and screwballs and far left extremists. But listen, according to the polling, they're slightly ahead. According to the polls, they got the wind at their backs. Nate Silver, Frank Luntz, they're all saying, oh, she's now the front runner. That ticket, Kamala Harris. And why are they pretending to be something they're not? Listen again to Nancy Pelosi one more time on Morning Joe.
Tim Walz, I know very well. Let's say he served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat.
So I ask you a simple question as we kick off another hour here in the Relief Factor studios. Real simple question from the heart. Why would Nancy Pelosi deny that he is who he is? Why is she pretending he's something he's not? Help me tackle that. 800-655-MIKE. I mean, so they're calling us weird. The people that like to smell burning tires and destruction, we're weird? John Fetterman stood up yesterday and called J.D. Vance weird. John Fetterman, you know, with the guy with the hoodie and the shorts, he has the lack of self-awareness to call a former Marine, J.D. Vance, weird. And remember, it was Tim Walz who is the architect of the so-called Let's Call Republicans Weird campaign. I guess that's why he got the gig. Holy moly. 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. Join us. I want to put your voice front and center here on the Mike Gallagher Show. If we reject the lies, the deception, the dishonesty of the media and the Democrats. And incidentally, I'm back to the dishonesty of the Democrats, and I want you to give me an honest answer to that question. Explain to me why Nancy Pelosi is pretending Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, isn't left. Her word, not mine. Not radical. She's not, just left. A guy that we know what Tim Walz is all about. A guy who defended tearing down statues. A guy who gave driver, on and on and on. I mean, this is really something to behold. This is a Midwestern guy. You don't think of people far left in the Midwest. Go to Minnesota. Here was Brian Lanza on CNN yesterday.
You saw him evolve from a moderate Democrat to a radical leftist as he ran for governor of Minnesota. I mean, he ran as a leftist politician for governor of Minnesota. He certainly ran away from the NRA, who previously endorsed him when he ran for Congress. You know, he supported sanctuary cities. He supported amnesty for illegal aliens. He supported health care for illegal aliens. That's outside the mainstream of America. It's certainly outside the mainstream of the Midwest. So it's great that they chose a Midwesterner. They just chose the furthest left of the Midwest, who's going to is not going to moderate Kamala, is going to continue to push it to the left, which is her problem.
Now that's CNN. That's a guy on CNN acknowledging this is a guy that is out of the mainstream of certainly Midwest America, out of the mainstream of most Americans. This is a far left guy. Why is play the Pelosi clip one more time? I am just obsessed with what she said yesterday on MSNBC because it is so telling. It's so revealing.
Tim Walz, I know very well. Let's say he served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat.
That's all you have to know. If she's willing to lie about who he is, they're running from it and they're hoping you're not paying attention.
Mike Gallagher.
You know, when people get mad at me for my opinions or my views or my beliefs, they often say, you lie, Mike, you lie. Hey, Mike Gallagher, you lie. And I always say, well, give me one lie. Tell me what I've lied about. And they never can. Of course, nobody can ever say one thing I say with regards to this show and what I believe that's untrue. But the Democrats can lie at the drop of a hat. Pat in Dallas wants to point this out. I mean, Tim Walz is lying with such willful abandon. And Pat, that's what you wanted to talk about. Is that right?
That's correct. We have to pay very close attention because the left does a great job. And when I say the left, it's all the media, it's all the universities, it's all professors, it's every right commentary. And look at the language they're using to describe Kamala and her vice presidential pick. Moderate, moderate, moderate. So they're going to condition every Democrat ignorant voter thinking that, oh, yeah, this is a great pick, right?
Look,
So
no matter what side, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to get this point in, and it's very, very important that we repeat this. No matter what you think of Democrats or Republicans or right or left, I mean, clearly, people like you and me were on the right. Clearly, Tim Walz is on the left. Nancy Pelosi is actually pretending that he's not on the left. Have you heard the Pelosi clip that I played all day?
Oh, of course.
Let me play it one more time for the benefit of people who haven't heard it. This was just yesterday on MSNBC. Now, we already know, for people who didn't know, we're learning real quick about his record with illegal immigration, sanctuary cities, tampons for boys' bathrooms. If there's a 29-foot border wall, we'll build 30-foot ladders. All this crap, defending, tearing down statues, burning cities. So clearly he's left, right? Not according to Madam Pelosi.
Tim Walz, I know very well. Let's say he served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a heartland of America Democrat.
Now, Pat, that's as big a lie as you'll ever hear in the history of American politics, but she's willing to do that.
And that soundbite that you just played is being repeated by every Democrat voter. They're buying into it. And so everything that you described about the Minnesota governor, every crazy policy that they're enacting is considered moderate action, right?
Right. And nobody,
and
but nobody, but they don't buy it, Pat. They don't believe it. I don't think they even believe it. Here's the one guy, Scott Jennings. I saw him on the airplane flying into Milwaukee, and he's the one guy that they allow to show up on CNN. Here's what he said about Tim Walz's propensity for lying, and he's lied about. I saw a clip where he said 80% of children in Minnesota were only out of school for 3 days. What the heck is he talking? He's lying. Listen to what Scott Jennings said on CNN last night.
I thought the rewriting of the whole COVID narrative was just something to behold. I mean, this guy lies as easily as any national level Democrat. I mean, he was up there talking about Donald Trump and, causing COVID and causing, destroyed our economy. And so he had the most draconian lockdowns in the country. He talked about in our state.
When did he say that, Scott?
He did talk about his
causing. He said he froze the economy.
Okay, pick your euphemism. I mean, he also talked about and here neighbors respect neighbors. We mind our own damn business. He literally created a reporting system for people in Minnesota to snitch on their neighbors if they saw them violating his draconian lockdowns. They kept the schools locked down, the businesses locked down. They left the bars open, I think, but they closed the churches. And now to come back later and rewrite this and somehow blame this on Trump and rewrite this narrative, I was, you know what? He lied real easy. He's going to fit right in on this ticket. He lied real easy.
Yeah, he lies real easy. Pat's right. They'll lie so easily without batting an eye. And I always challenge critics of me and critics of this show. What have I ever lied about? You may not agree with me. Well, we can clearly point out their lies. 80% of Minnesota kids miss 3 days of school. Tim Walz is down the middle, a moderate, a middle American guy. He's not left to call him left. They're lying through their teeth. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. They know it too. And that's why we're going to win on November the 5th.